Hello, hello, Regis Kilbin is the name, and Heroes of the Storm is the game. I recently wrote an article for TempoStorm.com called The 10 Best Butts in Heroes of the Storm. Yes, that is correct, the 10 Best Butts. Now, that's a goofy title, but the article was actually about characters who are really good at using their character's collision radius size to block enemy heroes. If you look at Anub'Arak here, he actually has a very large circle around his feet. You'll see a similar one around Diablo or Asmodan, while other characters will have a much smaller circle. That circle actually represents their collision radius and how good they are at blocking enemy heroes. And on that list, Diablo ranked number 1 and Anub'Arak ranked number 2. Now, not only does Anub'Arak have one of the game's largest collision radiuses, but he actually has a suite of abilities like Impale and Burrow Charge and Cocoon, which make him even better at disrupting the positioning of enemy heroes. Now, normally Anub'Arak is built with a beetle build that's all about spawning beetles and using those beetles for extra damage and giving him some extra sustain options. But you can also build Anub'Arak as a real body blocker. And in that article, I jokingly called Anub'Arak the Pooper King, because pooper, I guess, is a term used to reference butts. And since this build is all about body blocking, I am begrudgingly also calling this Anub'Arak the Pooper King Anub'Arak. It's all about disrupting enemy heroes' positioning, having crowd control options, and using body blocks to prevent them from doing what they want and going where they want to go. So, real quickly to run through the build, it's Extended Spikes, Under King, Bed of Barbs, Cocoon, Burning Rage, Epicenter, and finally Rewind. So each of those in a little more detail. Let's run through them all. Extended Spikes takes your Q, and it increases the max range by 25%. You can see just how far the Q actually goes now. You can hit stuff from very, very, very far away with this ability. It does require a little extra finesse on the timing to get it right because it's not an instant effect, so you'll have to practice that a little, but you can hit enemies from very, very far away and still stun them, which is pretty nice when you're trying to prevent people from going where they want to go. And although Regen Master is great for tanking, and Assault Scarab, of course, is a part of the Beetle build, this one is far and away the best at actually controlling the enemy position. At level 4, we're going to go Under King. This increases the range of your Burrow Charge by 20% and lowers its cooldown by 2 seconds. So this actually has a very long cooldown normally, and 2 seconds off can make a difference. This is great for getting behind enemy heroes and setting up body blocks. If somebody was standing right there, you can dive behind them and prevent them from running through the gate, for instance. The range is also really nice because you saw how far that was. No matter how deep you get in enemy territory or how far away someone might be that you need to lock down, this will allow you to reach an extra 20% further. So between those two, you essentially increase your effective range quite a bit because you can do something like dive in all the way up here and then hit somebody way back here between the two abilities. If you had the standard effects, you probably couldn't even get to the gate from where I originally started. So that's pretty nice. At level 7, we're going to go with Bed of Barbs. This takes your Q, and it creates a bed of spikes along the path that slow enemy movement speed by 30% and deal a little bit extra damage. So normally, right, this stuns someone for 1 second, which is great, but you can now also use it as a zoning tool that anyone who runs over those spikes also takes a slow and a little extra damage. So you kind of double the crowd control utility of your Q. Not only do you have to hit the stun right away, but you can do something like lay down a row of cantrips in front of the gate so that anyone who leaves it or tries to run through it is also slowed and takes some damage. So you can zone out pathways like this and say, oh, you want to come through here? Well, you either have to take damage, get a slow, or come towards me. So you can do some pretty neat things with that ability. I think it's pretty underrated in general and perfect for what this build is trying to accomplish. At level 10 for our heroic, we're going to take Cocoon. This is a really powerful crowd control. It wraps up an enemy hero for 8 seconds. Now, of course, enemies can attack the Cocoon to set them free, but it's pretty rarely used ability, so they don't often see it or do it. And being able to control an enemy hero for 8 seconds is nuts sometimes. You can take out a tank so that the squishies are just free targets for your damage to attack. You can take out a healer so that you can blow everybody up without actually issuing any heals. You can take out a damage dealer as needed. It just gives you so much flexibility for locking people down. The cooldown is also way shorter than Locust Swarm, so you get to use your heroic more often. It's only down for 52 seconds, so in a really long fight, you might even get to use it twice. It's probably the single best crowd control effect in the game just because the duration is so insanely long, especially in a disorganized environment where the enemy team doesn't react and free them really quickly. At level 13, there aren't really any crowd control effects, but Burning Rage is the most popular talent on this tier in almost every build for a reason. It's just really good at adding up damage over time. Anub'Arak tends to get in people's way and stay close to his targets, especially if you're doing a lot of body blocking. They're going to be right next to you, so ticking away at 50 damage per second can definitely add up over the course of a fight and help you get a kill from body blocking that you otherwise might have missed. At level 16, we're going to go with Epicenter. This increases the impact area and damage of Burrow Charge by 85%, which is huge. So Burrow Charge is really one of your best ways to engage or escape and to set your positioning up for a body block. Plus, this means you don't have to be quite as precise when hitting your E. You'll notice that my arrow was actually missing Arthas there, but the effect is so big that we still knock him and all those minions up in a pretty big radius. So this removes a little bit of margin for error and also means you can hit multiple targets more easily. You can see we're pretty far away, but still connecting there, which is nice. So it's good if you're not that high skilled, and also good in general just because you can do a little bit more with Burrow Charge. Plus the extra damage never hurts. And then finally at level 20, we're going to take Rewind. It's a little sad to give up Hive Master and Hardened Shield for all the sustain that they offer, but Rewind also can give you some sustain because you get to double cast your shield. But on top of that, you get to double cast both of your crowd control effects as well, right? So you can Q, or actually let's open with an E. We'll turn off cooldowns here. You can E, and then you can Q, and then you can rewind, and then you can E, and then you can Q again. Now I didn't do anything sensible there, but if you're a skilled player who's conscious and thinking ahead and planning your moves out in advance, Rewind essentially gives you twice as many stuns, right? You get to stun for 1 second here, you get to stun for you get to briefly stun, I don't know the actual duration of the E, but let's say another second here, and then you just double it, so it could be up to 4 seconds of stuns thanks to Rewind. So if you use your abilities well, you can do some pretty crazy stuff with Rewind, not to mention twice as many shields. So there you have it. That is the Pooper King Anub'Arak build. Real quickly, Extended Spikes, Under King, Bed of Barbs, Cocoon, Burning Rage, Epicenter, and Rewind. If you really like to disrupt and frustrate opponents, this is really probably the best build and best character in the game to do so. You can make some pretty crazy plays on the back of the Pooper King Anub'Arak. So have fun out there playing the Pooper King. Don't tell anybody I called it that. And until next time, game on.